Hi everyone, it's Christy from Green Eyed Tarot. I'm here today to film a VR to Tarot Magpie. She created a really fun tag called To Romance Tropes that actually I think was inspired by something that came across BookTube, I believe. So looking at the tropes that sometimes show up in romance novels and books that are of the romantic persuasion. And so they created this fun tag where we have prompts to go along with some tropes. So to romance tropes. I just made myself this absolutely delicious iced coffee, and we are going to get into the decks that I chose. So there are 10 prompts, and I'm going to have to keep referring back to them so that I can remember what they are. But there are 10 prompts in this tag, again, to romance tropes. I will definitely link Tarot Magpie's video. I believe they created a playlist as well. So I will link that. I'll try to link that as well in the description box. So I'm going to take a sip of this delicious iced coffee. I found this amazing cold foam at the grocery store. I can never find it anywhere. I love when my coffee has cold foam. So now I can make these at home. I don't need to go and spend money at the coffee place to get a lovely iced coffee. This is decaf, oat milk, and cold foam. Okay, that's enough of that. I'm gonna have to remember to take sips though, because I don't want to waste this. Alrighty, so to romance tropes. So like I said, there are 10 prompts. So the first prompt is enemies to lovers, a deck style or system you've insisted just wasn't for you until you realized it was. So that's fun. So I had to really think about this. A deck style or system you've insisted just wasn't for you until you realized it was. So the deck that I chose for this one, for enemies to lovers, is the Pagan Otherworlds. So a deck that's been around for a very long time, that is very familiar to many people. And this deck, because it's been around for so long and is very familiar to many people in the tarot community and those who use and read tarot, this is nothing new. I'm sure that many people are familiar with this. So the thing about this deck, and the reason I chose this, is mostly because, well, I didn't get this deck. Like, I have had it down now for like a few years, but I did hold off on it forever. Like, I was like, I'm not getting that. It's like expensive. I'm never going to use it. Like, I know everyone loves it. I know people talk about it all the time. It's like, I'm not going to be influenced to get this deck. And then the deck's in my hands, so you can see that I was influenced to get this deck. So that's great. So I definitely failed with that. But the thing is, so I swore that I would never get this because I was like, it's pippish. I mean, it's not a Marseille deck, so it's not like traditionally what you would call like a pip deck, like straightforward. But it is definitely a pip deck. So as you can see here is the 7 of Wands, and there are just 7 wands on the card. So I swore that I was like, that deck's not for me. I will never use it. Like, why am I going to get this deck? And like, it comes from out of the country. Like, why would I do all of this? So you can see there's some additional, so this is like the 7 of Cups. So there's some additional like illustration, symbols and things, and like but it reads to me very, very pippish. It also has these extra moon phase cards, which I do like. But man, has this deck grown on me. I mean, even after I bought it, I feel like I was like buying it to prove the point that I would never want to use it, which is so silly. Why would I ever do that? It's like, I have something to prove to the deck itself, or I just wanted to prove something to myself or to someone, because I'm sure nobody cares except me. But even buying it, I was like, exactly like this trope says, this enemies to lovers. I was like, I don't like you, and I don't understand why everyone else does. Like, or I don't understand why people go, you know, oh, crazy over this deck. And the artwork is beautiful. It's not the artwork. It's not knocking the artwork. But I was like, you know, what is so special about this deck? And then I got it, and like I let it sit. Like I went through it and I let it sit, and I was like, okay, like you're very beautiful. You know, I love the backs. The backs are, you know, gorgeous. It has such an antique feel to it. And so I sort of like got it and like put it aside, and I was like, you know, I'm not going to use you. But then I picked it up. I picked it up for, I believe I probably featured it in like another video I did a while ago, like some VR. I think that's what happened. And then I ended up using it, and then I ended up using it more, and I fell in love with it. I love this Tower card. I'm so glad this card came up because I absolutely adore this Tower card. But I started using it and I just fell in love with it. It's energy. It does have this otherworldly feel to it, yet it's so earthy and grounded. It has this like weird, to me, that's such a weird mix, but it does have this otherworldly feeling again, but while also feeling super earthy and grounded, and like just reminds me of like, it gives me that, that very like ancient feeling. So this deck started to represent, because to me it has that very Celtic pagan feeling, that and energy coming from it, and just the people that are depicted in it, and like the scenery. It, to me, it just has a very Celtic energy to it. So it started to become like really a deck that I used doing like ancestor, trying to connect to ancestors and things. It really did become one of those decks that became like a staple and fit that niche for me. And I just fell in love with it. Like I love sort of the sepia tone of the cards themselves. It has like sort of like softer colors. Like these blues are so soft, but somehow they're still vibrant. And I love the pentacles. I love the way the pentacles are designed in this deck. So it really is an enemies to lovers deck for me. It really has become a deck that I truly do love. And I love the fact that like it was a relationship, like it took a building up to that. So I like that it falls into this enemies to lovers category, because it really did take sort of a building up to get there. But I fell in love with it after using it only for like a short while. So it was a quick love affair after me being adamant that I was not going to fall in love with this deck. So Pagan Otherworlds by Usi, still, I believe, readily available. The cards are definitely bigger than standard tarot size. I don't really have an issue shuffling them. I'm going to take a sip. I think it needs more ice. I need time to settle and get colder. Okay, next. Friends to Lovers. A deck you liked well enough, and then one reading deepened or changed your relationship with it. So Friends to Lovers. So for Friends to Lovers, I have this deck here in this beautiful bag that was made by Krista from Krista Chronicles. Her shop on Etsy is called Crochet Witch Wears, but she's Krista Chronicles on YouTube. So she made this bag, which I absolutely adore. It has these roses on it. And I just love all the colors. It has like some browns, and it has like these icy blue and grays. And then there's like even some, almost looks like a maroon. It's so nice. So anyway, the deck, Friends to Lovers, is the Darkness of Light. So this deck is one of my absolute favorite decks of all time. I've talked about it on the channel before, in plenty of videos. So this is the Friends to Lovers. So when I got this deck, I like liked it well enough. You know, I was like, it's, you know, it's a great deck. It's a Rider-Waite-Smith clone for the most part. I really love the artwork. I think the artwork is spectacular. I think it's very beautiful. I do love the way certain cards, especially, there's certain cards in this deck, but so I liked it. I liked the deck well enough, you know, but I ended up doing a reading. I ended up pulling it out to do a reading, and I can't remember what, like, I'm pretty sure it was just like a daily, you know, just like a daily reading I do, because I don't often sit down and do like massive spreads. But I decided to do a reading. It was towards the end of the year, so it was sort of like, yeah, I remember it was December, because I tend to pull this deck out in the winter a lot. So it was December, so it was sort of like an end of the year type of, it wasn't my like year ahead, but it was like kind of like an end of the year, like wintry crone energy like type reading, and it just blew me away, and I just fell in love with it, and it has become, like I said, one of it's probably easily top 5 for me. I did speak about this deck when I did a video on ancestral tarot, like doing ancestor readings or connecting with ancestors via the tarot and using that as a tool. And this deck is probably one of the number one, if not my number one, that I use. And I don't know how to explain it, but it just, to me, feels like my ancestry, feels like the people that would be in my like family tree. I don't know, like I said, I don't know how to describe it. Just certain images, like I have Italian ancestry and I have a lot of Irish ancestry. So this to me it connects me to more of my Italian ancestry. Again, I know it probably doesn't really make any sense, but for me, that's sort of what it did. And I after that reading, it became, like I said, such a staple, and I absolutely love it. I adore this deck. I think it is absolutely stunning and breathtaking. And yes, too, the major arcana is in Italian. So that could be why I, connect it to, that might be one of the reasons. I love this 3 of Cups. Oh, nudity. I never forget to do that. I mean, I never remember to do that. I always forget. So nudity warning, too late. Naked people. Sorry about that. But yeah, it's just so beautiful. It's just like something so beautiful. And again, like it's that darkness of light, just the name of it itself. It's like that shadow and light, that play of shadow and light. I just love the painting, like the painted feel of it, like you're looking into a painting. But yeah, it is one of like my favorite decks. Definitely falls like immediately. I sort of immediately thought of this one when I was going through the prompts and the Friends to Lovers. The Friends to Lovers prompt. I love this 5 of coins. I use this for the Drop 'em 78 challenge, Mindful Tarot. So I got to dive deep into a lot of these cards. I love this 5 of coins. And in the Drop 'em 78 tarot, you really like look at the imagery. That's one of the things, like the details of the cards. And I just love this 5 with the dog and like the door slightly ajar and like that warmth, coming through. And yeah, I just love it. So that is the Darkness of Light Tarot. And this one is the 4th edition, I believe. There's been several editions of this deck, but this is the 4th edition. I had another edition with the white borders, and I was able to get this one when it was released, and so I sold the one with the white borders because I do like this edition. I like the way this edition looks better. So there's several editions, and they do not all look the same. Okay, so prompt number 3, forced proximity, a deck you used for a month or took on a holiday or made yourself work with that changed your relationship with it. So number 3, for me, another one of my favorite decks, but it wasn't always so, is the Terra Volatile. So this was another one of those decks. This deck has an entire 5th suit to it as well, the suit of vessels. Yeah, the suit of vessels. So it has an entire 5th suit, which I don't use. Sometimes I use it, but I don't. Right now, I do not have it. So the Terra Volatile, and I'm going to take a sip of coffee. So the Terra Volatile, again, was one of those decks I was like, I waited. So I waited and missed out on like the first run of this, and I had to wait, and it was a while. It was a long time. So I had time to sort of like, I don't want to say forget about it, but I was like, oh man, I missed it, and then I was able to get it when it was, re-released. It was republished. So I ended up getting this, and as soon as I got this deck in, I was like, I'm using it immediately. I'm not putting this on a shelf because I didn't want it to become one of those situations, and I don't know if anyone can relate to this, where you get a deck in and you look at it and then you put it aside and like you don't use it, and you're like, oh yeah, like 3 months later, you're like, oh yeah, I have that deck. So I wanted to use it immediately, and I wasn't really sure about it because I feel like this deck is not 100% me, like my aesthetic, like what I usually go for with decks. To me, it almost has a little bit of the same feel as Darkness of Light, oddly enough. Like something about the artwork, like now that I'm looking at it right after that, something about it like reminds me. I love this 9 of this 9 of Cups card, because he just looks completely hammered. And I know I've talked about it in another video. Then this card can't, like, he just looks like he's completely sloshed, like completely inebriated and just like has no cares in the world, and like is like just loving life and like enjoying it. I think that is really funny. But this deck is, I used it for a month. And so like I struggled. I was like, all right, like I was using it and I'm like, okay, like I can read it, but I'm like, I'm really not connecting with it. And then I used it more and I used it more. And I ended up using it almost every day for a month. And I like, again, this forced proximity, I forced myself to use it. Like there were a few times I was like, no, I want to use a different deck. And I was like, you're using this deck. It was like I had to get harsh with myself and like put that boundary and be like, I'm using this deck. And I'm glad that I did, because it really paid off. And again, it's become one of my favorite decks. It is so interesting, and just the name, again, I love these play, like the pagan otherworlds, like the way that it's so earthy, but it has that otherworldly feel. And the Terra Volatile, it literally translates to Terra, like earth, which me thinks like grounding, and volatile, right, which is like that chaotic, like chaos magic, type of energy, or like alchemical, right, that alchemical process. And so again, it's sort of like, it's like that dichotomy. So I like that. I love that about decks. I like that when there's like a duality. So I love that play on those two sort of very opposite polarizing types of ideas of Terra and Volatile. But it is a little dark. Like the art can be a little dark, but it is just... And there's like lots of options for this deck too, like different cards. There's like, I believe there's another Temperance card. This one's Prudence. Like, so there's lots of options, so you can sort of customize it, which is amazing. It's just a great way to be able to use it. Like I said, the whole other like suit. But it is a Rider-Waite-Smith. It's very Rider-Waite-Smith. So it's fairly easy to read. But it definitely challenged me, because it's not the type of deck I would usually like reach for or purchase. which is why I held out the first round and missed out on it. But yeah, it has become, like I said, one of my favorite, and just using it for that month, like that steady use to do like all different types of readings, like one card draws, like doing, multi card spreads with it. It really gave me a chance to understand it better and to really look at like the art and connect it to the meanings of the tarot as I know them. And it's a beautiful like linen cardstock, so it's really nice to use. I love this seven of Pentacles, where the tree's literally growing out of this person who, like, the figure looks like they're part of the rocks and part of the tree and part of the roots, and like is also part of the water. Man, like, it's just, the imagery is yeah, it's deep. To me, this is like a really deep, it gives really deep readings, and again, has a very ancestral feel to me. That I love that sort of vintage feel. You can't really pinpoint though. It's sort of timeless. Like, you can't really pinpoint like what time period is this occurring in, and also like where are we? Like, what part of the world? So it's a very worldly deck. It feels like traveling. I think I've said this before, like it feels like traveling to like far east, like just far away, like lands and places, like traveling the Silk Road, like just it has that like it travel like type of feeling to it. It is very worldly. So that's the Terra Volatile. Another one of my favorites, that sort of, it really grew on me, and it was really because of the use, like because of actually using it and connecting with it during readings. Okay, number 4 is Soulmates. When it was just meant to be, a deck that you fell in love with immediately. Okay, so this one was like a no-brainer for me, like especially for recently or within the last 6 months. But that's the Circle. It's upside down. The Circle of Doors Tarot. I'm not going to spend too much time because I'm pretty sure this deck has been in like several videos recently. Look at the I mean, it's just one of the most, this is probably one of like the most beautiful deck aesthetically, just production wise, probably the most beautiful deck that I have in my tarot library. Like this whole, look at the box, the way the box opens up. Flat, just the details. It's so sturdy, and the cards are very large, but I feel like it needs, like this deck needs to be this large so that you can really appreciate the art. And this was based on a art installation actually out in California. But these are the backs. They're absolutely gorgeous. Like I said, the cards are very large. They are larger size. They are not standard size. I absolutely love the backs, the card stocks on this. I don't even know. It's like it feels, I'm not an expert on cardstock, so I don't even know how to describe it. It's like satiny, but also feels a little textured. I don't even know. I don't know what I'm saying, but it has gilding. Anyway, the most important thing is the cards, is the card images themselves. This was like Soulmates, 100%. 100%. Soulmate. The fact that they have keywords on them, I adore. Look at the 2 of Knives. They're like butter knives. I love this mix of photography and like layered collage, like layered. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. Here's the Empress. We have Goddess. The High Priestess is just Priestess. This deck speaks right into just pierced my witchy soul, my divine, like feminine archetype loving and studying and connecting with soul in a way that I don't even know how to describe. The guidebook is phenomenal. Like if you want to just read the guidebook, but I love that there's keywords. I love the keywords they chose. I love the font on this deck. Like, let's just talk about fonts. Anyone else who's like a font snob, like my email at work, like the font I use is like this weird font that like nobody has ever heard of or uses. It's so funny. Like everyone always makes fun of me because I pick like crazy, like weird, like fonts. I can't just use like the regular, like, you know, I can't use the font that is just the standard font, like Aptos. Yeah, no, I don't have time for that. I need like a fancy font. So can we just talk about the font on this deck? Let's show some font love for the Circle of Doors. But I love it. I love the suits, like how they're renamed. We have the keys. Instead of the Hierophant, we have Witch. Again, just speaking directly to my witchy soul. It's so primal. The energy is it's so raw and primal. And like I said, the size of the cards, just like, it's like in your face, like even just the size, it's like in your face energy. It is such a beautiful deck. And I believe the creators just announced on their Instagram that it is back and available. I shared it on a story because I'm obsessed with this deck. And I would love to see more people with it. If anyone is interested in doing like a deck study together, I would love to do that. If anyone is interested in doing that, I would love to do that with this deck, a deep dive of this deck where we like really dive into the guidebook and the keywords and our traditional meanings and the imagery and how it all ties together. So if anyone wants to do that, please let me know in the comments or like send me a DM on Instagram. I'm here for that and I would love to do that. So please, let's get some love going for this deck because it is amazing. Look at this 10 of Cups. Peace. Look at this baby. It's just gorgeous and speaks directly to my soul. And I'm going to stop gushing now over this, but I almost can't because it's just that beautiful. And like I said, it's just so aesthetically pleasing. It even like smells good. So deck sniffers, get a whiff of that deck. So it's the Circle of Doors. So we're just covering everything in this video. Fonts, like font snobs, deck sniffers. It's got a little bit of something for everyone here, this video. All right. We're going to be here forever. I can't read this without my reading glasses. All right. Prompt 4. That was Soulmates. 5, Slow Burn. A deck you didn't have the best first impression of, but the more you worked with it, the more you liked it. Slow Burn. My slow burn deck is the Tarot of Mystical Moments. I know this is a very popular deck. This is a US Games deck, I believe. And it's very glossy. So that was like its first strike. I mean, I'm not that big of a snob, but the glossy decks do get me a bit because I feel like it would look so much better on matte cardstock. I feel like it would just look great on a matte. So I didn't have the best impression of this. Again, I'm not a big fan of gilding, especially shiny silver gilding. So just talking about purely shallow, like we're being very shallow right now. Just being very shallow, yes. So the shiny silver gilding could definitely do without that. The slippery, shiny, sort of glossy cardstock definitely can deal without that. So yeah, some strikes against it. It is definitely not, standard tarot size, which doesn't really bother me. I'm okay with that. I do have smaller hands, so sometimes it's hard to shuffle, but it's fine. I don't riffle shuffle that often. And these are the backs, which are very pretty. I don't even know. They don't even show up on camera. There's like a antique, like motif on the back, but you can't even see it. But this deck is, again, it can be a little hard to read. I think that was initially, I wasn't able to read it as well, maybe. And I also thought it was going to compete with the Dreamkeeper's Tarot, which Let's face it, nothing can compete with that deck. I love that deck on a whole nother level for whole other reasons. But like, look at this King of Cups. Like, it really took me a while to appreciate this, but this artwork is stunning on a whole nother level. Like, gorgeous and weird. I mean, and it's got that weird, like, quirky, like, very interesting, which makes it even more beautiful. And I think it maybe takes, like, it might take, like, a little more, again, a study of this deck. But I love it. I do love this deck. It tends to come out in the summertime. Like, the summertime is when I usually tend to use it. But this was a very slow burn for me because, like I said, the cardstock, the shallow shit, like, let's just be honest, being, like, completely superficial. But, like, it's really gorgeous. And I think this is one of those decks that in the beginning, at least, you definitely need to use the guidebook because there's a lot of talk in the guidebook about the images and the imagery. So it helps to connect it to the meaning. So if you struggle with just, decks that are not following, like, this is not a Rider-Waite-Smith. To me, this is going off on its own in a lot of ways, which I think is great. I think, like, we need decks like that, definitely. But like, let's just appreciate, like, the colors. And I just feel like it would look so good in a matte cardstock, like, even better. I mean, look at the Fool. This is a visually stunning deck and super interesting. And it's not, to me, my opinion is not one where, like, straight out the gate, like, let me just read. It's going to be, like, such a clear, like, reader. No, this one's a slow burn. For me, this was a slow burn. I was like, I don't get it. I don't understand, like, some of it. I'm not really seeing the connections in some things. Look at the wheel. Look at all the gears one turns and, like, how it affects all the other. It's just genius. It was a slow burn for me, and I absolutely adore it now. And to me, it has such a summery feel. Obviously, there's, like, lots of flowers, lots of florals. But look at the Ace of Wands with the book. And I love, like, this, like, feeling of her hair, like, blowing. Like, you can feel I don't know. I'm rambling. I ramble. But it's gorgeous. But it needed time. It has grown on me so much. I love the moon. Look at the moon. Look at this, like, like, coming behind her. Ooh, it's, like, creepy, but, like, it's so beautiful too. That light, like, coming off of the moon. It's awesome. Look at this. There's a shell. It's like a shell or like a spiral. I don't know. But I do love this deck. Slow burn for sure. And I've gotten past all the shallow aesthetic shit with this deck. And it's a really good deck. It is really beautiful. And I definitely have it out now. Like I said, for the summer months, for these warmer months. All right, sip. Holy crap, we're going to be here forever. Okay. Next, reading glasses. Slow burn. Number 6, opposites attract. This deck is not your usual style, but you love it anyway. Opposites attracts, for me, is the Ritual Tarot by Tierra May. This is the marked edition because this deck is not my typical style. And I'm not sure I would have been able to 100%, now that I've gotten to know it, but 100% read with it without the markings on the back to know which card is which. I mean, I feel like most of them I could. But again, this deck is definitely not my style. Again, bigger cards. I don't know what it is, but like every deck I've shown is like not standard tarot. I mean, they're all giant. I don't know. So here's the backs. 5 of Pentacles. So this is the marked edition. I'm definitely going to drop this deck because it's a little slippery. 5 of Pentacles. So it's right there. So it's pretty like unobtrusive. It's blends in well with the backs of the cards. But yeah, this deck is a lot there's a lot going on. And it's definitely not my style. I think I did a whole video on like narrating the tarot, like stories, like storytelling and decks that like very narrative. So that's me. I like scenes, I like things that are happening in the cards that I can easily decipher, like, oh, okay, this is what's happening, and I can make up a story. I could make up a story about what's going on, but it would be like a fucked up, like very weird, like Tales from the Crypt, like Twilight Zone type of story, which could be fun. And I'm not knocking that. I feel like it might be fun to make up a story, but there's a lot going on. So this is going to take some time, but I love it. And like, that's what's so crazy is that this is not a deck I would have normally chosen for myself. Also, again, why I waited. I didn't get it the first time around. I was like, I'm like, I really like it. Like, I loved watching walkthrough. I love people talking about it, like using it and how they were using it. I'm like, I'm so excited for you. And I love that you love this deck, but I'm like, I don't know. I don't think it's for me. I'm like, I think that I know myself well enough to be like, I think I pass. It's not for me. And it turns out it is for me. And I love this deck. And I recently read, there was a book I recently read called Lilith. Great book. P.S. Amazing book. And I was doing card pulls as I was reading through that book. And just to sort of, just as a way to like bring that energy, the energy of the book and things that were happening and connect with the deities that were being talked about in the book. It is a book of fiction, but it's so good. And this deck was like, oh my God. I'm like, this deck is this book. Like, to me, it was like, this is that book in this deck. And so I realized how much I do love this deck. And even if I'm only using it for really specific things or really specific readings or to connect with like in my spiritual practice in certain ways, I do love it. And I realized that me thinking that this type of deck is not for me, I think maybe that's the case. Like, I'm sure there's other decks out there like this. Like, there's other decks that have this type of collaged artwork that's like very, like, has lots going on. But I think this is the one for me that falls into that category. I think just the creator and the creative energy behind it, it's really fantastic. It's something so different, but so full of symbols and like just symbolic energy to connect to the different meanings of the tarot cards. So yeah, the ritual tarot, it is something else and really something special, and definitely opposites attract. This is not something that I ever thought I would have in my tarot library, and one that I would use and connect with so well. So yeah, I'm really glad I have this and that I was able to get it and that I got it when I did. I don't think I was ready for it before, like the first time it came around, and I think this is a deck you need to be ready for and sort of accept with open arms. So that's my opposites attract. Okay, number 7, blind date, an impulse buy, a gift, or a deck you got without much research, but ended up really loving. So blind date, my blind date deck is this, the Circe Tarot. This is a Los Scarabeo deck and mass market, and one that I knew absolutely nothing about. I don't think I ever saw a walkthrough, nothing. I don't think I ever saw anything about this deck at all. I didn't even like look at any images before I bought it. And it is in order because I'm doing something with this deck, very specific study, very specific Greek mythology things that I'm doing. So it's in order. But these are the backs. This is a standard tarot size pretty much. These are the backs, which to me are really cool. Like, they definitely have like an ancient Greek vibe to it. But I knew nothing about this deck. I just bought it. I don't know. It was on a whim. It literally was on a whim. Like I said, I never saw anything. And this deck, the guidebook, it tells you who these people are, who these figures from Greek mythology are. So it's very helpful. I don't think I would ever say that about a Los Scarabeo guidebook, honestly. It is a little white book, but it has lots of information about. So if you're looking to learn about Greek mythology or use this to connect with Greek mythology and then go deeper with like the stories, the mythology, right? These legends, and how all of these people and figures are connected. It's a great, jumping off point. But it's really beautiful, and not, again, art that I didn't think I would like. And like, especially like going in blind and not really knowing what I was like going to be looking at. But it's kind of unlike anything else I have, I feel like. But to me, it's really pretty. I like, all these reds, like these really sort of rich, like bold, more bold colors and like, jewel tones. I really like that. And we think about like how bold the, Greek, like these figures in Greek mythology, the things that they did, these stories and legends about them, like, and how bold they were, and just these different, how dramatic it was, and like, can we just talk about, I'm just looking at my carnelian right here, can we like just talk about how my carnelian literally matches this card? Like, it matches. Sorry, that just caught my eye. Weird. But it is, yeah, like I said, to me, it's beautiful. I like the artwork. It's, to me, it has like a little bit of a storybook vibe. It almost has like the Darkwood Tarot. Something about this, like a little bit, like is giving me Darkwood Tarot. But then some cards, like, I'm like, ooh, this looks like the John Bower Tarot. I don't know. I'm all over the place with comparisons here, but ooh, I love the moon. Look at this moon card. It really is beautiful, and I really do like it. And I'm looking forward to using it, in readings. Like I said, I'm using it for a really specific sort of a Greek mythology study right now. So that's why it's in order. But I look forward to using this. Ooh, I like the Three of Cups. Look at that. I do love these like tone, like the colors they used. Really like rich, really like some of them like so lavish, like very lavish, like, and like lush type of, I don't know, type of color palette. But yeah, the Circe Tarot. This is a Lo Scarabeo deck. Like I said, it is mass market, I believe, readily available. It was a total impulse buy. I knew nothing about it. And I really like it. Like, I'm looking forward to getting to know it more, obviously. But yeah. So for an impulse buy, it kind of worked out. All right, blind date. Second chance, a deck you planned to get rid of that worked its way back into the rotation, or a deck you did move along and ended up repurchasing. So this is second chance. This is a deck I planned to get rid of. It was in my bag full of ones that I was putting up for sale in a tarot group, and that's the Crystal Visions Tarot. This is a US Games deck. This is pretty old. This is a pretty old deck. It's been around a while. And I don't know. I thought that this was a deck that, like, I was like, okay, like, I'm not really like a pink and purple person. And, it's kind of an older deck. And, to me, it does have like a youngish vibe, standard tarot size. And, so I definitely had it. And I was like, okay, like, this is like my 90s, like fantasy, like 90s fantasy stage. And I was like, I think like I should move it along. Like, I don't think I'm going to use it. It's really beautiful. Again, it has like pastel colors, lots of pinks and but it's done really well. But, and again, I love the fonts. Weird font. Why am I talking about fonts so much? The Whirl with the Lotus. It's really pretty. And for a while, like, when I had this deck, like, originally, like, I used it all the time. I had a very small tarot collection, very small tarot library at that time. But yeah, I definitely had this in my pile to be rehomed. And then I think, I can't remember who it was, but I saw someone using it on Instagram a lot. And for the life of me, I can't remember who it is. And I believe on like YouTube too. And I was like, you know what? I'm like, I really like this deck. And the fact that it's it reminds me of like my youth is not a bad thing. And like, why should I get rid of something that, you know, that reminds me of a time in my life, you know, when I was obsessed with, you know, like Anne Stokes, like fairy art, which I have several of. Or like, you know, I had like a whole collection of fairies when I was like in my late teens and early 20s. I only have 2 of them left. I kept 2 of them. But I had like a whole collection. I don't remember who made them, but a whole collection of like these fairy figurines. And that's what these remind me of 100%. But it is really pretty, and it has like crystals in each card, like different crystals, ruby and amethyst and sapphire. So it has different stones in it, but it's really fun. It's really fun and usually makes its way off my shelf like in the springtime. Again, it has like spring summer vibes to me because it has like a very fae, very fairy type of energy. But this one was saved because I just think it's fun and it's a really clear reader, and I like it. I like that it reminds me of that time period in my life. So this is the Crystal Visions Tarot. I think it's still available. I do not think this is out of print. Did I hear a rumor that it might be going out of print? I'm not sure, but it's US Games, and I think it's still available. All right. We're coming down to the end here. 9, unrequited love. You really want to love this deck, but it just doesn't love you back yet. Unrequited love. Oh, Lilifer. Oh, Lilifer Tarot. This is the deck. This probably could have gone in the second chance category too. Yeah. This deck just doesn't love me at all. It doesn't. And I really wanted to love this deck. I really wanted to love this deck. The backs are super cute. Like, look at how colorful they are. With the heart, with the eye. It is probably a little shorter than a standard tarot deck. And for some reason, it seems like it's separated a little. It's matte cardstock. Because of the complicated relationship, the unrequited love. I haven't really used it at all. I started a deep dive of this deck, like on my channel, and then it just sort of like didn't go anywhere because I just couldn't. I tried, and like there was just so much happening, but it was like, it's just like symbols. It is a matte cardstock. They do tend to stick together. That's like another, just like a pet peeve I have. But there's lots of symbols, lots of zodiac signs for the planets, which I don't know 100. Like the zodiac signs, I'm pretty good. Elemental symbols, I can figure out. But planets, nope. Get very confused with those. So I think it's like such a cool deck, and I love the figures. Like they're so weird. Like they look like these really weird, like some of them are so like amorphous, like they have no shape. So I think it's really cool, but I was having, oh my God, I struggle. Anyone else have this deck, and did you rehome it? Do you struggle with it? Is it just me? Is it me that struggles? Like, is there anyone how do you use this deck? Like, help me out. I don't want it to be in the unrequited, but it's confusing. I don't know. Like, look at the Fool. Like, look at how much is going on in this Fool card. There's lots of things. There's like a path. There's a figure. There's also like a devilishly looking figure. Like, ooh, maybe danger's ahead. Is that like how we're looking at it? And there's like stars. It has all the elements. That makes sense for the Fool. I could definitely see that. There's like a dog. What kind of looks like a dog. So that's traditional. Is that Uranus? Okay, forget it. Just stop. This deck doesn't love me, and I was trying to love it, and it's very hard. I'm having a hard time. So anyone else have the Lilifer Tarot and has struggled with this? I would love to hear from you, because I feel like I need a support group. Some kind of support group for the Lilifer Tarot to try to help me figure out what is happening. But That's the Lilith Tarot, and we have a complicated, very unrequited. Okay, last one. That's it. Holy shit, this is long. Love Triangle. 2 decks that compete with each other in your collection, or a pair of decks you always use together. So these don't compete. These I use together. Sip. So they don't compete, but they love they're in a love relationship, and I love them together. And that is the Intuitive Night Goddess and this beauty right here, the Tarot of Persephone's Garden. So the Tarot of Persephone's Garden is gorgeous. This is an independent deck. Forest Moon Maiden. Oh my gosh. Help. Her Instagram, it's Cara Small. They're Forest Moon Maiden, I believe, on Instagram. But don't quote me on that. So here's the backs. Intuitive Night Goddess. So these two together, holy crap. Like, man, these are like just absolutely amazing. And I don't know why they love each other so much, but they love each other so much. And they just work so, oh my God, can you stop? I'm saying they love each other so much, and then I flip over the 7 of Wands at the same time. You cannot make this stuff up. Thank you for not making me a liar. They do love each other. You see how in sync they are? So they love each other. They adore each other, as was just evidenced by what you just witnessed. So they are both very highly feminine, female presenting figures in every single card, I believe. I don't think Tarot of Persephone's Garden has any. No, there may be a few. But it leans very, to that feminine energy. It's based on the Persephone and like Hades, myth. So there's a lot in there. And the Intuitive Night Goddess is just, there's no goddesses named. They're just goddesses, like representations of goddess energy, right? Of spirituality in the goddess sense. So, but they just go, to me, they go so well together. I've done several readings now with these two together. And they are just, to me, they're just magic. They look so beautiful, like together, next to each other, to me, in my opinion. Something about them just syncs up. And it's just such a good pairing. So this is a love triangle. It's me and these two decks. And I just feel... I feel like the connection, like when I'm using these two together, it's just this like magical feeling and magical energy that I get. Yeah, it's hard to explain. Again, it has it's definitely that, that feminine feel, like that archetype, those female archetypes. John William Waterhouse is one of my favorite, if not my favorite artist. I have one of his paintings, not his, oh my God, not an original, but like a poster, like a print of The Soul of the Rose is one of my favorite of all time. But I am such a big fan. Oh, look at these two together. The Moon and Threads of Fate. Yes. So anyway, so Tarot of Persephone's Garden was kind of a no-brainer for me. Like, come on now. But we have the 8 and the 9. Because of the artwork chosen, the artists that were the focus of this deck. But yeah, it's the readings I've had with it are absolutely amazing. So that's my last prompt. Love triangle, Intuitive Night Goddess, and tarot of Persephone's garden. Ooh, the Tempest. This painting is called The Tempest. I absolutely love it. The King of Wands. I love it. Ooh, look at these two together. Freedom and the King of Cups. Okay, so there you have it. The hashtag to romance tropes, a VR to Tarot Magpie. And thank you for creating such a fun and interesting tag. And if you have any of these decks, like I said, please let me know. I will try to link the original video, and I believe there's a playlist, so link that so you can check out everyone else's. So many people have done them. They've been so fun. They've been so fun to watch. I've enjoyed it. In particular, Jess from Jess Reads Cards, who is back on YouTube. I'm so excited. It's so good to have her back and in the community and doing videos. So she did a VR, which was really fun. So check that one out. Just a special mention to that one. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye.